Mandatory ICT training. As mentioned at the last council meeting, all members are required to complete the mandatory training. Reminders are sent regularly to those members who are yet to complete them. Please complete them as quickly as possible. It's up to all of us to remain vigilant and protect the council's network. I have completed it and it's really very useful. Please do complete them. Remembrance service. The annual remembrance service takes place on Sunday, 9 October at 3 p.m. at the Peace Memorial by the Town Hall. There will be a parade from event space by the pond. So there's a change this year. So we're parading from the pond. If you wish to take part in the parade, please arrive to 15 p.m. Tea, coffee, and biscuits will be available at the main cafe in Watford Central Library. Upcoming events. Black History event is continuing with Black History Month is continuing with events taking place throughout October. Last weekend, we had 2 sets of Black History events, one held in West Watford and the other one held in the parade. And they were quite very beautiful events. Please do check WACA website for more events for the rest of the month. Marketplace on 31st October, we have a Halloween theme, and the Christmas events is set for 15th November. Fireworks at Castleberry Park is on 1st of November from 6 p.m. And Watford Lions Plus will be doing their usual collection for charities, including mine. Please do check Watford's website, what's on what page for event details. I would like to also talk through my events as chairman of the council. My charity walk took place on 11th of October and raised lots of money for the charities. I want to thank Watford and residents that turned up for that work. We had almost 40 people working on Saturday 11th. A reminder about my upcoming events over the next few months. So I would like to give you some of the dates for my upcoming events. The first one is Charity Quiz Night. It will take place on Friday, 21st November at 7 p.m. at Pump House Theatre. And the second one is Watford Civic Service, and it will take place on Sunday, 7th December at 4 p.m. at West Spring Church. Rock and Roll Bingo, Friday, 13th March at 7 p.m. at Everett Rovers FC. Formal invitations will be circulated in due course. I'll be looking forward to seeing many of us in these events, and especially those that have not been attending. They know themselves. Mayor's reports. A report of the mayor is attached to the agenda. Please, can you raise your hand if you wish to ask a question of the mayor? I will then make a note of all members who wish to ask a question and read it out to make sure I have everyone who has indicated. Please raise your hand now. Yeah, Councillor Bell. Any other person? Okay. Any other person? Okay. So Councillor Bell and Councillor Dinsa has indicated to ask question.
Can you just report?
Yeah. And I invite the mayor to present his reports.
Thank you very much, Councillor, as I've heard. Obviously, happy to answer questions on anything in the report or anything else to do with the town. Just one update, I think, since the report was published, which I think is worth noting. Our BID, our local town and centre business improvement district, had its third ballot, and we had the highest ever turnout, 49%, and 92% of businesses that took voted in favour of being part of the bid, and for it to continue, 95% if you look at rateable value. So an overwhelming vote of confidence in the team that lead our town centre bid. So huge congratulations to them. The council's looking forward to continuing to work closely with them to support our town centre.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Just remind us, each questioner will have no longer than 1 minute per question. There are no statements or supplementaries except for Councillor Bell as the leader of the main opposition group, who may ask a supplementary question. Only the two people that indicated will speak. So should I start with Councillor Bell, please?
Thank you, Chair. And just wondered if the Mayor would agree with me. I'm sure he will. This is not controversial. Clearly, in the last week or two, there have been some serious violent issues in the town, and clearly in my division of West Watford, I'm sure we've all seen, and I have been briefed, so I'm not asking for anything, and there's live investigations going on anymore, but also in the Lower High Street, Saturday, as we know, and also another part of my division, Copperdale Court. Does he agree with me that there are a lot of residents are concerned, not just in my West Watford division, but around the town about what's happening, and that, we should be not, I'm sure we all encourage everybody that if anything we know, all of our organisations and all the people that we know on the ground, to encourage them to report what they can. If they're afraid to do it anonymously or to come to us, but obviously to go to the police, to use the numbers that they can. But, I'm sure you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bell, for raising a really important issue. The first thing I'd say is I pay tribute to the police for the work that they're doing in relation to these incidents. I had a meeting with the new Chief Inspector on Friday, who covers both Watford and Three Rivers now. A number of arrests have been made, which is really important. I think the second thing to say is the Council's community safety team, who I'm sure we all know, Kerry and Liam, work really hard with the police on these cases. And of course, we've got the CCTV coverage that we fund right across the town. So you're right that any member of the public that has any information about these should report it to the police. But it's important to reassure residents that these are very active cases, and of course, a number of arrests have been made.
Thank you for that, and I'm expected that as your reaction, and just to thank you for that, and again, just to encourage other people to obviously to tell our residents to stay safe, but to report whatever they can. And obviously, it's a worrying time at the moment, but yeah, to pay tribute, we've got a very good Chief Constable as well at the moment, and yeah, Simon Cooper and the other officers who are there are doing what they can, but obviously just to try and reassure all our residents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the other thing just to highlight is the issue of knife crime, that we take that really seriously, that there is a lot of work going on. I know Councillor Dykeson working with the Police and Crime Commissioner across the county to look at how do we address that issue, working with a range of partners. There is some really good work going on to educate people about the dangers of knife crime and to make sure we tackle that. So I appreciate you raising the issue, and I just want to reassure all of you that we are working as hard as we can to tackle this issue because we realise how important it is.
Thank you. Councillor Dinsa.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I think I'll be allowed to make this statement. I'd like to wish everybody but happy Mandishore and happy Diwali, which is being celebrated by the Sikhs, Hindus and the Jains for different reasons. It was celebrated by some communities yesterday and some by today. Hence, I've been to the Gurdwara. That's why I'm wearing a turban today as well. So, and to my colleagues here and all the community in Watford. My question is regarding the name of the competition for the pond area. I agree what's written here is much loved and much used, hosted, really nicely used area. Well, I was only walking past yesterday by the pond. The pond itself is not in a very good condition. It needs really good tidying up, and the water is filthy in there. I know there was a lot of money spent on the filter system of it. I don't know whether that's not working or it's not being maintained. So can we have an answer for that, please? Thank you.
Thank you for both points. Actually, I'd like to wish you a happy Diwali. We had a fantastic event in the town centre, actually, and it was the typical Watford approach of bringing loads of different groups together, the council, the bid, loads of people involved with it. We had a huge turnout. It was great to see the success of that event a few days ago. On the pond, I mean, I'm happy to raise it with officers. I would say that as someone who walks past that pond every single day pretty much, the fountains are working. No, that's a really important part of keeping the water clean. I'm happy to investigate the issue that he's raised with Danny and the team. The other thing I would just say about the naming that space, grateful to the hundreds of people who took part in that poll to name because we always just refer to it as the event space by the pond, and I think the bid team felt actually it'd be helpful if it was a bit of a snappier name. So we'll be announcing the outcome of that vote soon. It won't be event space, whatever that people always put forward for these things, but it will be announced imminently.
Thank you. Item 6, questions by members of the council. No written questions have been received. Questions by member of the public. A question has been received from John Dowdu and is included on the agenda. John is here with us in the meeting. I would just like to remind members of the procedure. I will invite Mr. Dowdu to put his question, which will then be answered by the mayor. Once the question has been asked and answer given, at my discretion, ask a supplementary question, but only if that question is to seek clarification of the reply. There will be no debates following the question and answer. I will now ask Mr. Dowdu to put his question. If you can come over here, please. Yeah.
Right. Can I speak to the question, or do I just do the question?
The question, please.
Sorry?
Just the question, please.
Just the question.
Yeah.
Okay, so pursuant to the last council meeting, I've got here 9th of July, but I noticed the minutes were shown as being the 15th, but I'm not quite sure why we've got 2 different dates. What progress has the elected mayor made in resolving the problems of the retail shops and residential units above the shops on the Meriden estate?
Thank you, and I'm grateful to you, John, for raising the issue. So since we had that motion come to full council, the petition, sorry, we've had 2 really constructive meetings with the shop owners. At the second one of those, the Chief Executive of Watford Community Housing was present. Of course, local councillors, both district and county councillors, have been there. As you would expect at those meetings, we talked about the redevelopment, rents, compensation, parking, safety, the resurfacing works, and crucially, the importance of these businesses for the local community. We've agreed a number of actions, and some of those have already taken place. I know that there's individual conversations happening between the businesses and Watford Community Housing. The resurfacing work has taken place. Improved parking and enforcement is being worked on. Physical measures to ensure the safety of pedestrians are also being progressed. I know that the businesses asked for better signage around the parking, and our own parking team are working with Watford Community Housing and the businesses to deliver that. So I'm really grateful to all of those people that have been involved. As I say, it has been very constructive. The businesses feel that they're being listened to and that practical steps are being taken to improve the situation, because I'm sure that all of us here want to make sure that those businesses are a success for the community.
Mr. Dowdu, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, if I may.
Is it to seek clarification to the response?
Yeah, it's just a point of information. I went round to the shops about a week ago and spoke to some of the shopkeepers there, and I mentioned that we'd had the petition before, and that you had said you would meet with the county council, the housing trust, and officers of the borough council to get something done about it. And I said, so I just asked them, I said, have you seen or heard anything that tells you that something's happening? And actually, the ones I spoke to all said no. They hadn't actually, nobody had approached them, nobody had spoken with them, they hadn't actually seen anything. That was the feedback that I got from them, which I'm just wondering, I mean, do you know if people have actually spoken with the shopkeepers and told them what's going on?
Yes, the answer is that they have. And so I'm very happy to, I mean, one of the issues we talked about actually was the level of communication. And happy to make sure that it has, but I've had a number of email exchanges with the businesses themselves in which they thanked me for the proactive approach that we've taken and for the improvements that are being done. So I would say that, I mean, obviously, I don't know who you spoke to, but we've been dealing with the owners and the managers of those businesses. And I'm really pleased that we are making progress. There are still some issues to work through. But I also, I know that Councillor Pattinson and the other ward councillors have been really involved in this and listening to the businesses. So I take on board your point. We'll make sure that they're being fully briefed on the work that's being done. But I think that there's been a good piece of work and good progress that has been made over the last few months.
Thank you, Mr. Dowd, for coming. Thank you. Petitions. No petitions have been received. Urgent business. There's an urgent item of business, and I would like to hand over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. This is an item that I'm raising for full council's awareness, and it's simply to note there's no decision required, but it is just something for awareness. It's to note that Councillor Kennedy Rodriguez, portfolio holder for customer services and property portfolio, is anticipated to be on a period of compassionate leave due to illness until at least the next meeting of full council on the 27th of January 2026. During this period, it's not anticipated that the council will be in attendance at any meetings of council. There is no requirement for the 6-month waiver rule to be applied in these circumstances because of the timelines. We just wanted to ensure, the Mayor wanted to ensure that you're aware of the position. As a matter of courtesy, and again, as a matter of courtesy, the Mayor will email all members when a decision is made regarding interim arrangements for that particular portfolio, and that note will be circulated via email. So just for information, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Is the live stream on now? Yes. Good. Thank you. A report of the monitoring officer has been circulated with agenda for constitution updates. I'm inviting Councillor Williams to move the recommendations in the report. You have up to 7 minutes.
7 minutes. Thank you, Chair. I don't think I'll be using the 7 minutes. I'd like to present this exciting report on the Constitution and to move the amendments in paragraph 4. As highlighted in the report, the Council's monitoring officer has a statutory obligation to ensure that the organisation's constitution remains up to date. Similar reports do come to Council, and I'm sure that we're familiar with these, when there's been other proposed minor changes to the Constitution. The proposed changes are highlighted in this report in paragraphs 4.2 to 4.8. These are really just tweaks that require full Council approval. If agreed and approved this evening, the amended Constitution will be published on the Council's website on the 1st of November, and I'm sure it's eagerly awaited by many residents. Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, that was good. Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. I reserve my rights to speak.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to speak? Okay. Any other member? Okay, go for it.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to highlight very briefly in the report the establishment through the nominations policy of the Housing Emergencies and Exceptions Panel. This is a new part of the Constitution, and it's really important that we have a panel available to assess exceptional housing situations, of which none ever seem to fit in the black and white box. So this is a very powerful change to our Constitution, and I welcome it.
Would you like to speak, Ada?
Thank you, Chairman. I reserve my rights.
Can I invite Councillor Williams to sum up?
Thank you very much. Just want to come back to Councillor Pattinson. Thank you very much for highlighting. They are very crucial, those changes, and it's great to have them in the Constitution. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Does the Council agree the recommendations as printed on page 14 of the agenda pack? All those in favour, please. All those against, please. Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Appointment of independent members remuneration panel. A report of the monitoring officer has been circulated with the agenda. I'm inviting Councillor Williams again to move the recommendations. You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I hope not to take up the 7 minutes. And yes, it's a further exciting report this evening that I'm presenting. Members will be aware that the Council has an independent member remuneration panel who make recommendations on members' allowances scheme to the Council. The panel usually meets in November in order to feed into the Council's budget process for the next 4-year period. The existing scheme covers the period 22 to 26, and so the meeting this year will set a new scheme for the next 4 years or until the Council is abolished under the local government reform. More on that later. The previous chair of the panel recently resigned, and the Democratic Services Lead and Monitoring Officer undertook a number of interviews with applicants to replenish the panel to 4 members. The vacancies were advertised on the Council website and social media, as well as via a number of community partners. The interviews resulted in a recommendation for 2 new members of the panel. Mr. Jolovic, a local resident and a vice chair of governors within the borough, and he's been involved in the remuneration committee for the head teacher and other members of the senior leadership team. And Ms. Hussain, a local resident and has previously chaired community boards involved in remuneration. If approved, the 2 new members will join the existing panel members. Council are therefore requested to approve the appointment of Mr. Jolovic and Ms. Hussain to the independent members remuneration panel. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please?
I'm Councillor Duduza. I'm seconding for this motion. I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to speak? So how many? Councillor Bell. Okay. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I reserve my right to speak, please.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I won't take a minute. I'll just say we support this. It is important that we have the full 4 members on there, especially for illness only. So it's good to get the 2 members, and looking at their background, as far as I can see, they look well qualified. And that's what we need for an independent remuneration panel. So I welcome this appointment, or these appointments. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Williams to sum up?
Thank you very much. Nothing further to add, but thank you very much, Nigel, for your support of your groups.
Thank you. Does the Council agree the recommendations as printed on page 18 of the agenda pack? All those in favour, please. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendations are carried. Interim polling place review. A report of the Electoral Services Manager has been circulated with the agenda. Can I please invite Councillor Clark to move the recommendations?
Thank you,
have
Chair.
up to 7 minutes.
Thank you. This is a matter that falls within the portfolio of Councillor Kenji Rodriguez. I'm very pleased to present this on his behalf tonight, and would also first and foremost associate myself with the comments from Councillor Dinser to send Councillor Rodriguez our best wishes. I'm sure everybody associates themselves with that. So I'm pleased to present this evening the report on the interim polling districts and polling place review for Oxley and Holywell wards, which together form part of the West Watford County Division and Oxley and Central Division. This report seeks council approval for officers to carry out an interim review of the polling district boundaries and polling places within those wards to make sure the polling arrangements remain accessible, practical and fit for purpose as our communities continue to grow and change. The council is required every 5 years to do a mandatory review of polling stations, but we are also permitted to undertake interim reviews as well, and this does not affect the mandatory review process. The Riverwell and Mayfield developments have significantly changed parts of West Watford, and Mayfield sort of sits in between Oxley and Holywell. So we now have new communities, new facilities and growing populations, and we need to assess that our polling arrangements still meet the needs of those communities. The review will help to ensure that every voter has reasonable and convenient access to a polling station in line with the returning officer's legal duty to deliver elections that are inclusive and accessible to all. In Oxley Ward, the main proposal is to designate Mayfield Village Hall as the polling place for electors in polling district LC. At the moment, those residents have to go to St Matthew's Church Hall as opposed to voting in their vicinity. For those of you who don't know, Mayfield is a retirement village. By its very nature, the residents are older members of the community, and many of them have disabilities, health issues. And for those of you who know where it is, on Thomas Sawyer Way, you have to get up a steep hill to get to St Matthew's Church Hall. So it's a difficult walk, and the public transport access isn't as good as it should be. We are working on it. So it really is important actually to ensure that those residents who are very, very engaged, I must say, from my visits to them, are able to access a polling station. So I really welcome this on their behalf. And in Holywell Ward, there are several changes proposed, including redrawing boundaries on Talpitts Lane as a natural dividing line, moving some electors to Holywell Primary School and West Watford Free Church, discontinuing the Green Building as a polling place because it no longer meets accessibility standards and it's not a suitable long-term venue, but also it means that vulnerable adults who use that facility on a day-to-day basis are displaced on polling day, and creating a new polling district, KE, so that residents in Mayfield area can vote locally at Mayfield Village Hall. Together, those adjustments will reduce pressure on Chesbrook Education Centre, improve accessibility and ensure electors vote within their own neighbourhoods. The consultation will be taking place from the 27th of October. I really encourage people to, members to engage with their residents, to participate in that. You can take part online, in writing, over the phone, and it's really important that people's voices are heard on this issue. There are no additional financial implications. All consultation and review costs are going to be met from the existing budgets, and the process fully complies with electoral law, electoral commission guidance, and supports the returning officers' statutory responsibilities. So I do hope that everyone can support this in the interests of ensuring that all of our residents have access to polling stations as part of the democratic process. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, may I have a seconder, please?
I will second it.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to speak now?
I reserve my right to speak.
Yeah. Do any other members wish to speak? So I can see Councillor Bell and Councillor Watkins. Is there any other? Okay. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, overall, I support this. And obviously, I've been liaising with the officer there, Sam Langford. We desperately still need, and I know she's still trying to get another area in KA, because Holywell is getting large, bigger and bigger, as we know. You can see from the figures. But I know she's working on it at Cortland. So that's what we're trying to encourage and look at. Yeah, I'm quite happy for this to go ahead now. And if other arrangements might get in place, we've still got January to come back. Mayfield, yes, makes sense there. And to be kept, we'll make sure that people know exactly, what they're doing there. But yeah, overall, I support that. So yeah, there's certainly on the Holywell side, there's been a problem as the population's been growing and growing, especially on KA. So we do need to look at that for the future. But yeah, where we are now, I certainly agree with this. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, turning back to when I used to be member of the Cabinet and was responsible for this area of the Council's responsibilities, I have to say congratulations to the team in finding locations. You wouldn't believe the headaches that used to go on and presumably still have had to go on to find locations, because you have to remember that putting in a polling station into an operational building sounds fine in theory, but it disrupts the life of that particular building, the people working in the schools and things. So I think a word of thanks to everybody who's agreed to have a polling station on their site, Mayfield, Chesbrook and the various other locations. I would just make one observation. We're all creatures of habit. We always know where our polling station is, except when it isn't there. And I just need to be sure that everybody who is going to be affected gets a very clear statement, not just a line in the letter saying you're now going to a different place, because otherwise you'll have people going all over the board saying, what's happened to the polling station?
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Councillor Dinza.
Yeah. On the polling stations, what I observed last May was the situation in Vicarage, where we used to have 3, so reduced down to 2, which is multicultural community centre and the football ground. So some of the areas, it's very far for them to reach there. And also what I observed is sometimes that the polling stations do not have people who speak other languages. And then some of the elderly people, which are not that many now, but they're still struggling. So if we can try to ensure that the polling stations are covered by people speaking other languages. And the other issue was that people where the tellers are sitting and taking numbers, which on the day I took it up with Donna and other people, that there were people interfering with the people going in, speaking to them. They're entitled to take the numbers, but only on the way out, and not sit in the doorway of the Multicultural Community Centre, which I observed, and I spoke to the council officers. They ended up going there, but as soon as they went away, they were back there again. So if these can be please observed, and this applies to all parties, that please do not interfere with people when they're going in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Aga, do you want to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Thank you to members for their comments. Just a reminder, this is a review of the boundaries for the area rather than voting procedure. Please do use the official channels if there are actual concerns about behaviour around polling stations. This motion is really for just the interim review of the boundaries. But I really hope that everyone will support this just to ensure that people can access voting arrangements in the most easy and convenient way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the council agree the 2 recommendations as printed in the agenda pack on page 22? All those in favour? Okay. Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Scrutiny annual report 2024-25. A report of the Senior Democratic Services Officer has been circulated with the agenda. I will invite Councillor Gibson to move the recommendations. You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly won't need 7 minutes. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. I hope that all members have had a chance to look at the annual scrutiny report for 24-25. Scrutiny does play a vital role within our council. It's at the heart of transparent and accountable local government, ensuring that decisions are made in the best interest of our residents through careful examination, constructive challenge and collaboration. Scrutiny helps to improve services, influence policy and hold decision makers to account. As outlined in our constitution, the council is required to receive an annual report on the work of scrutiny committee over the preceding year. The report before you this evening provides an overview of the activities, processes and outcomes of both the scrutiny committee and its task groups during 24-25. The scrutiny work programme is developed collaboratively to ensure it reflects the council's key priorities and focuses on the issues that most matter to our communities and residents. This approach helps us direct our efforts where scrutiny can have the greatest impact and make a meaningful difference. I would also like to highlight the dedication and hard work of the supporting officers who have provided invaluable research, coordination and guidance throughout the year. Their efforts have been essential in enabling the committee to deliver effective and meaningful scrutiny. In closing, I would like to thank all my fellow committee members and officers and partners who have contributed to the work of scrutiny over the past year. I look forward to continuing the collaborative approach as we move into the next year, ensuring that scrutiny remains a strong and positive force within the council. Can I also, just at this time, call on all councillors? This is inclusive. This isn't an exclusive committee. That means every single one of us as councillors can pull anything at the front of scrutiny, and we as a committee can decide on looking at it. So please, come to me, come and speak to me, come to speak to our vice chair, and that's the end of my report. I am happy to take any questions or comments from members regarding this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please?
I'd like to second the report as the Vice Chair of Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to speak, please? Councillor Bell and Salisbury. Councillor Dinsdale, do you want to speak now? Okay, Councillor Bell, please.
Sorry, if I can just say, I echo what Amanda has said, and it's surprisingly me and Amanda have worked quite well on that scrutiny committee. And I'd like to thank all the working groups and the officers who have particularly put in a lot of work on the scrutiny committee. And thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just wanted to comment on particularly the e-scooters one. I think I've never, at Watford Council anyway, I've never been involved in one. We've had so many meetings, so many task group meetings, but actually it was very good. Admittedly, I think Councillor Dinsdale and I wanted as well. We couldn't go to all of them, and some of them were online because there was so much. But I pay tribute also to the chair of that task group was Councillor Hill. I think she's not able to be here tonight, but she was very good. She really knows her stuff. Very good. She's a very valuable member of the council. I will have to say that to her. And also the officer who was involved in doing that. What's her name? Sorry, I haven't got a name. Was it Kissy? Yeah, sorry, I haven't got her name probably. But she was very good. So that was actually probably one of the best task groups and bit of scrutiny I've ever been here. And I've been here a long time.
Yeah, same line.
Just to say that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Salisbury.
Councillor Bell has basically just said what I wanted to say, to put praise to scrutiny for the work and thank the task group. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Gibson to sum up?
I have nothing further. It's just for this council to approve the report. Thank you.
Does the council agree the recommendation as printed in the agenda pack on page 42? All those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Council Pay Policy Statement, October 2025. A report of the Executive Head of Human Resources and Organizational Development has been circulated with the agenda. Can I invite Councillor Safri to move the recommendations? You have up to 7 minutes. Please.
Thank you, Chair. As members will know, we've legal duty as a council to prepare and publish a pay policy statement every year, and we have to update that whenever there are changes to senior officer pay recommendations. This statement has been revised to align the Chief Operating Officer and Director of Regeneration and Growth roles. We have interim arrangements in place for the Chief Finance Officer position, and the Chief Executive's remuneration has been updated following a decision made at Chief Officer Pay Panel. So the policy has been updated to reflect those changes, and the statement ensures we remain transparent and accountable in how we determine senior pay, and most importantly, enables us to maintain. Enables us to maintain. I hope Amanda is okay, but enables us to maintain the right leadership structure as we strive to deliver the best outcomes for our residents. Thanks.
Can I please take 5 minutes to check what is going on?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of specific parts of that report, members may talk on that on a factual basis, but we shouldn't be discussing sort of individual conversations that took place in a restricted meeting as a result of that, or be talking personally, about any member of chief officers.
So thanks for that. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah. So obviously, I would just discuss, as you say, nothing personal, but just what was discussed in Part A. Thank you.
Thank you. So do any members wish to speak? Councillor Bell? Any other member? Okay. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. As regards the meeting of the Chief Officer Pay Panel on August, just to make it clear that obviously I did put forward an amendment that night, or that day, sorry. I give Councillor Johnson backed it. It was voted down, but I did want to make clear that I didn't think it was appropriate at this time. What's happening? I did want to make it clear that we didn't think it appropriate that the pay for the Chief Executive should be increased by 20%, especially when everyone else is suffering, if you like. So I did put forward an amendment for a 10% rise. That was voted down, but I just wanted to get that on record. And that's it, really. I mean, I just thought that was important to get that on record. But as for the rest of the pay policy, if we have to take it together, I think our group will abstain on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bashir, you are seconding. Would you like to speak?
No comments to make. Thank you.
Councillor Safri, would you like to sum up?
Yeah, thanks. And I know Councillor Bell's comments. But I commend the statement to full council. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the council agree to approve the council pay policy statement for 25-26 as printed in the agenda pack on page 52? All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendations are carried. minimum revenue provision and prudential indicator report, a report of the Chief Finance Officer and the minutes of the Audit Committee have been circulated with the agenda. Can I please invite Councillor Williams to move the recommendation? You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, another jolly exciting report that I'm presenting this evening about our minimum revenue position and the prudential indicators report. That title gets you. The report covers the quarterly prudential indicators for 25-26, which provide the council with the governance and control over their borrowing limits and activity in a fully monitored environment. The report discusses the revisions to the council's minimum revenue position policy from 24-25 onwards, which will enable the release of revenue funding for the improvement of the reserves position. This in turn translates to an improvement in resilience and effective budget for future medium-term financial planning. The revisions to the council's capital strategy, which incorporated a minor typo and the full incorporation of the MRP policy change to the 25-26 capital strategy. In summary, the report provides for greater financial resilience and improved reserve provision in both the general fund reserve and a voluntary revenue position that will contribute to the future affordability of Croxley Park. In figure terms, the general reserve fund in the updated accounts now shows a £2 million increase based on the 24-25 reduction in MRP charge, and a similar amount is being held in the Croxley Park voluntary revenue provision. So a net improvement of around £4 million in the reissued statement of accounts for 24-25 based on this policy update. I know that a similar report was presented to our audit committee earlier this month. I'd like to move the two recommendations listed on pages 63 and 64 of the report. And before I sit down, I do like to pass on the thanks from the Cabinet and the administration to the finance team for all that they do on the council's accounts. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Please, may I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I second, Chair.
Thank you. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I will. In the knowledge that if there is a sort of further debate, Councillor Williams will, I'm sure, be able to respond to points made. I think Councillor Williams referred to the detail of the report, so it might be appropriate just to mention perhaps the wider implications that we're aware that there are authorities that have got into serious financial difficulties, and where that has been looked at, one of the issues has been around how effectively the financial functions and audit functions have been scrutinised. So it is pleasing that we are keeping within the rules set. It is good that this is coming to this meeting tonight, because it's something that's required under the SIPFA Prudential Code, and it's all about keeping us as an authority compliant with the good practice as well as the statutory rules in financial management. And the report that we did discuss this at Audit Committee. There were questions raised, but it is good to note that we're doing this in the context of positive news rather than issues of serious concern.
Thank you. Do any member wish to speak on this? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got just two points. On page 68, 69, perhaps I've just noted that Shan wasn't here, so and it may be unfair of me asking this question. Perhaps the officer could do that. It's slightly technical. So financing costs are shown as increasing from 15.6% to 18%. That's page 68 to 69 of the report. So of the net revenue stream. So that's nearly a fifth of our controllable budget being consumed by debt charges. So my question is, are we confident that this is sustainable if interest rates remain high through 26, 27? And the second is more of a comment, and this is quite a technical report this will be a good cure to insomnia for many people. People do read this particular report. So I'd like to, it's almost a challenge to officers that in future reports, perhaps, we could do these indicator reports accompanied by a short, plain English summary that explains how these figures affect local services, because it's important. This is bread and butter of any local government, irrespective of who controls it. So, a plain English, how these figures affect local services and council tax, so residents understand how their council manages, for example, the £300 million of debt. Those are my 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other person? I wanted to ask if you want to respond. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor, for your questions. With regards, are we confident 26-27 and onwards would be sustainable? We obviously go through a budget setting process, so that will be reviewed as part of our budget setting process. I don't have any concerns at this point in time. And in future reports, yes, happy to provide some further detail. The information that we include in the reports is basically set out per prudential code, so we have to follow a particular format, but we can expand the narrative to make it a little bit simpler and easier to read.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Sharp to sum up? Sorry, Councillor Williams, to sum up.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you, Michelle, for responding to Councillor Asif Khan's questions, especially about the increase in debt charges there. Yeah, and yes, I do appreciate what Asif's saying about the plain English, and let's try and meet that challenge, let's say, yeah. I also basically want to thank Ian very much for your contribution, and yes, a robust scrutiny of our accounts is required, there's no doubts about it. Other councils got into trouble, Watford in the past has got into trouble about that, but I know that the present setup of our audit committee will be doing this. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Does the council agree the two recommendations as printed in the agenda pack on pages 63 and 64? All those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendations are carried. Treasury Management End of Year Report 24-25. A report of the Chief Accountant and the minutes of the Audit Committee have been circulated with the agenda. I will invite Councillor Williams again to the recommendations.
Thanks very much, Chairman. The excitement of this evening holds no bounds for me, and I'd like to speak on this Treasury Management Report. The Treasury Management End of Year Reports for 24-25 concludes the annual reporting cycle for Treasury Management activities. The detailed report is included in Appendix 1. The report confirms that the Council has complied with its regulatory requirements for Treasury Management throughout the year. It also shows that our activities were largely in line with the limits and indicators set out in the 24-25 Treasury Management Strategy, with only limited exceptions. Included in this report is a detailed external commentary from our Treasury advisors, Arlene Close. This provides a review of economic and financial market conditions over the year, along with updates on credit conditions, and sets out the context of the environment in which Treasury activities were undertaken. This report from Arlene Close is fascinating reading. Do read it. A firm recommendation from me. Debt and borrowing. The Council's overall level of debt remained within approved indicators. As a result of prudent financial management officers successfully deferred the externalisation of debt, avoiding the impact of elevated borrowing rates on budgets. The Council continues to have a long-term borrowing requirement and runs a significant level of interest rate risk, which will persist unless there is a marked reduction in long-term borrowing rates. Total interest payable on loans was 1.36 million against a budget of 2.21 million. Investment performance. On the investment side, performance was strong with an average return of 5.14 achieved, exceeding the benchmark of SONIA average of 4.9%. The total investment income was 1.82 million compared to a budget of 640,000. This contributed significantly to reducing the overall overspend in 24-25. Compliance and oversight. There was a small breach of investment limits in January 25 due to administration oversight. This related to the council's exposure to Lloyds Banking Group. It is in the report. The council holds current accounts and a deposit account with Lloyds. The error related to a weakness in recording and checking the total exposure across all these facilities, resulting in a sort of 178,000 breach of the approved limit of 10 million. Revised procedures have been introduced to mitigate the risk of occurrence. The officers plan to implement a new treasury management system in the second half of 25-26, which will further improve controls. Otherwise, compliance to the strategy was robust. I know that a similar report was again presented to our audit committee earlier this month, and likewise a big thanks to the finance team. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Please, may I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I second.
Would you like to speak now?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Yes, while again, this can seem like a rather dry subject and not something that is couched in rather specialised language. In the end, as Councillor Williams has indicated, this does come down to how we are managing important things like debt, investment, risk management, etc., that do in the end impact on what we're able to do as a council in terms of the projects that we can manage, in terms of the services that we can finance. So where we're saying, as I think was rightly praised at the committee, that the income from investments is 1.2 million above what was budgeted for, that does mean that the 1.2 million that is able to contribute towards serving the people of Watford and maintaining our services, etc. So these things are important. Again, it is good to note that we are complying with the policies that we set, and that we're managing within our limits, so that we can maintain our robust financial controls and health.
Thank you. Do any member wish to speak on any of this? Yeah. Councillor Watkin and Councillor Khan. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank
you. Trip down memory lane tonight. I'm going to be very quick. It's actually one of the great strengths of this authority that its management of its finances is so strong. To just be able to achieve a 1.2 million increase over what we budgeted for is fundamentally important to enable us to finance our housing need for the homeless. It could be supporting Veolia, it could be anything. And the difference between doing it well and doing it badly is that we could have been 1.2 million under what we'd expected to, and then we'd all be shaking our heads and saying what's going wrong. So my congratulations to the team. There's some new teams since I was the portfolio holder, but I'm delighted to see that they're doing great jobs as the previous team did before me.
Councillor Khan.
No, thank you. And I think, as Councillor Sharp said in his previous points, I think that councils shouldn't be complacent. We need to make sure that we keep focused and sharp focused on that. There was an overspend, Councillor Watkin, but this sort of compensated for that. My question was about my point was about the breach, and it was a breach, relatively. No, it was 170 odd thousand. But it's a principle that there was a breach, and it's important that everyone in the scrutiny, in audit, picked it up, and we asked those questions and how we're going to get it right. And that's the type of question that's important for any council that is doing its job right. And as Councillor Sharp mentioned previously, many authorities didn't ask those critical questions and pose those critical points, which caused them to downfall. And that's important from the Audit Committee that we are doing that, and also the Finance Committee. We constantly ask those questions as a critical friend, if you want to be, but really critical in a sense of to improving processes and systems and reassuring the taxpayer out there.
Councillor Williams, would you like to sum up?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, no, thank you very much for those comments just now. And there's no doubts about it. Robust financial controls are now in place here. I know there was that blip, as I would call it. It was only a small one, but it was noted, it's reported, it's been addressed. And yes, the council is in good financial health. We do have a good, strong finance team. And I do thank Ian for your chairing of the scrutiny committee. I thank Mark for your comments there for confirming that. And yes, thank you also, Asif, for your comments there about the good scrutiny. And I know that you fully participate in that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Does the council agree the recommendation to note the Treasury Management End of Year Report as printed in the agenda pack on page 75? All those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendations are carried. Yeah. So we come to local government reorganization, a proposal to the government. Before I move into this agenda item, I want to plead with us to consider to use our time effectively, because we still have 3 motions after this. So I would suggest that if someone had made the point that you wanted to make, that there may be no need to repeat it. Do we agree? Brilliant. So I would invite the mayor to move the recommendations. You have up to 7 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Ezefed. I will probably use up quite a bit of time. I did get given a very long speech, but first of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to Councillor Williams for putting in a phenomenal effort this evening and doing lots of very exciting speeches for us. And thank you. I'm glad that Councillor Grimston's back with us looking better. So some of us spend a lot of time talking about local government reorganisation. I know that many of you have been involved in briefings and conversations around it. So I'm just going to highlight a few key things before the debate. The first is to just remember that this is a government initiative. They published a white paper last December that set out that this was going to happen in all parts of the country where they have a county council and district council. So it's not something that Watford Council has initiated, it's something that national government have said that they're doing, despite the fact it wasn't in their manifesto. Now, we've got a choice as a council. How do we respond to that? Do we say, well, we don't really like this? Or do we kind of roll up our sleeves and make the best of it? And of course, the Watford approach from members and officers has very much been about saying, well, this is happening, so let's make sure that it's the best kind of change for our businesses and our residents. I would like to commend officers for the phenomenal amount of work that they have done on this while still delivering great services for our residents. Hertfordshire is unique when it has come to this. One of the things that stands out is that all 11 councils, leaders, chief execs, are still working together. We meet very, very often to talk about this in lots of detail. The Herts Leaders Group is chaired by someone you'll all know, Stephen Giles Medhurst, who's done a great job bringing us together, looking at the different models. I just want to very quickly talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of the different ones, because ultimately Cabinet will make the decision across all of the different councils about which of these 3 we want to support. We can only support one of them, and then the government will make the decision. So the 2 unitary option, Watford would be paired with St Albans, Three Rivers, Hertsmere and Dacorum. What are some of the good things about this? Well, first of all, the government initially were very clear that it had to be a population of 500,000 people in these areas. This would be 600,000 and meets that. They've kind of changed the language around that, but it is still a guiding principle that they should be around 500,000 people. It aligns with existing health partnership areas and uses current district and borough boundaries, avoiding complexity of boundary changes. It recognises 2 functional areas within Hertfordshire, that have some basis in existing patterns of service delivery. So things like our joint strategic work on planning has been done on this basis. There's only a single disaggregation of county services. Some of us had the pleasure of a 6-hour county meeting earlier today, and we're really conscious of actually breaking up county services can be disruptive. This, of course, would be the least disruptive in that regard. But some of the things we need to think about, services will need significant flexibility to respond to local differences across such large geographical areas. This model needs a strong local arrangements to ensure services remain responsive to the different communities. This will be if it happens, that would be a very large council that we're part of. How do we make sure that Watford's voice of our residents is heard? On the positive side, it has the greatest capacity to invest in transformation and new service models due to the scale of savings generated. All the work we've done on the finances has shown that this would make the biggest savings. If we move to the 3 unitary proposal for Watford, we would be with 3 Rivers, with Decorum, and also we're looking at possibility of moving Bushey in with us as well, given the strong links between Bushey and Watford. It will create medium-sized councils. So our council would have a population of 350,000, but of course with plans to increase it as aligned with localised economic clusters. If you think about, for example, our transport links, things like the M1 train lines, this aligns with that. It enables more differentiated service because this council would be closer to the communities that it seeks to represent. The resident response to the 3 unitary model has been really informative. Some of the things that the residents said, it brings councils closer to the residents. It's viewed as the middle ground, a balance. We've still got we're still linked in with our communities, but there are significant financial savings. And there's also this point that was repeatedly made about it just reflects Watford's natural sub-regions, that it's kind of people's lived realities are in these areas. For the 4 unitary model, Watford would be with Hertsmere and 3 Rivers. It aligns with economic areas. The authorities would be smaller, but much below the government's $500,000. You're down to kind of 300,000 or just over. There's a lot of discussion around the savings. The current kind of consensus is there would be some savings, but for one council in particular, there's question marks around its financial viability, and then an assumption that there would be movement of funding between councils. It represents the highest level of disaggregation of county services. So from a county perspective, you'd end up with 4 education authorities, you'd have 4 groups to provide social care. It's aligned to key partnership geographies, and it is the model that is closest to place. The smaller areas mean authorities are naturally close to the communities without requiring additional infrastructure for local arrangements. One thing I just want to highlight is the level of engagement with residents across the whole county. There's been a lot of discussion, forums that took place just over there. We've had over 7,000 responses to the consultation. Is that a beat to tell me to finish? Oh, okay, I will be quick. What remains, looking to the future then, we've got big demands on our services, we've got financial pressures, we need to think about prevention, and we've got climate change. So we've got huge challenges. I'm really grateful to the way that we've responded to this. We're making the best of it, and I'm sure that in the future we'll make sure we've got excellent services for our residents. I really look forward to hearing your views. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Would you like to speak now?
I'm going to reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other member wish to speak? You will have up to. It's up to. Up to 5 minutes each, and may only speak once. And please, if your point has been made, like I said, please consider not repeating it. So how many? Can?
Sure. Bell, Watkin, Saffrey.
Bell, Watkin. Is it correct? Yeah. So I have Councillor Khan, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Bell, Councillor Watkin, and Councillor Saffrey. Correct? Okay. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for doing that. I mean, local government reform, I think, I have been a believer of a Greater Watford as a unitary council. And I remember when I first came on, there was Councillor Andy Wiley, and I remember one of his last speeches, he dreamt of a South West Herts unitary council before he went off into, where was he, Suffolk or somewhere? But anyway, so bless him. But I'd just like to make two points here. One is about economic drivers and the 16 to 19 white paper that the government released yesterday about the role of colleges, further education colleges, universities to drive economic drive. And if you look at some models, we've got 4 colleges in Hertfordshire. So you've got West Herts that actually is a natural affinity to Watford through Rivers, Dacorum. You've got 2 campuses and so on. So it plays a natural economic driver for West Hertfordshire. You've got Oaklands College, my old, where I used to work for well over a decade, which serves St Albans in the centre part. And again, you've got an economic drive. Then you've got the big chunk of where you've got North Herts College and Herts Regional College that play that goal as well. So you've got certain division. That's a good point. I mean, it talks about economic drivers and how FE colleges, and then obviously you've got the University of Hertfordshire based in Hatfield, all work together, and it just works within that particular areas. The last thing is actually cultural affinity. There are natural cultural links between Watford, through Rivers. We all go down to Bushy, we go to Croxley. They see themselves as Watford, and so on. So actually, I would rephrase the West area as Greater Watford Council. My last point is actually this also gives us an opportunity where 2 council areas, Stevenage and Watford, don't have town or town councils. There'll be town councils here, and it's an opportunity to actually get more localised out the ashes, this phoenix of Watford Town Council, and other councils could arise, which actually goes right down to the ground level. So there's an opportunity in change as well. Those are my points. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I think to me, the most salient point from or the starting point from the mayor is something I strongly agree with. We haven't chosen this, and I think it's something that we wouldn't have chosen as well. And I do somewhat fear for the system of government, of local government that we're going to have. And it seems like, as many governments have done, use the language of decentralisation to the substance of centralisation. And if we're going to have, it's all very well for places like, say, Manchester, which are clearly compact cities with a clear sense of identity. It's very different where you're actually bringing together quite diverse areas and saying that over a much wider area, and saying that they should be unitaries of the same size, 500,000. And if you think that there are unitaries much smaller, Portsmouth and all the London boroughs, it is a shame that that isn't on offer, because I think that would have been, in principle, a better solution for democratic legitimacy. And if we're going to have this on top of this superimposed a mega mayor or whatever, given that I think I can't actually remember the name of the police and crime commissioner, so you have somebody with somebody with large amount of powers that is not representing any kind of area that we identify with, and whose name most people won't know. Those are all the retrograde steps. That said, I will say of the available options, the 3 unitary one seems to be the one that is most likely to be a financially a goer and reflects the community that we feel that we are within. If you think about both the road and transport links that the mayor has referred to, it is a shame that we can't have something that is more reflective of Watford, if Andy Wiley's sense of the greater Watford or the southwest heart. That would seem to be a more natural community, but clearly that's not going to happen, and it isn't on the table, and we have to accept that. I do agree with Councillor Khan that there is a danger that Watford's identity, particularly as it's not typical of Hertfordshire and not typical even of West Hertfordshire, the unitary that we are all the time suggesting might be the best option for us, that our identity, whether through a town council or through local partnerships, is retained. Because what I fear is that things that we have tried to do, like driving jobs and economic growth, like insisting on quality parks, may be something that people in different communities say, well, we've got loads of countryside, so we don't need these wonderful parks. Or say, actually, we're sleepy villages, so we don't need all these jobs. But Watford needs jobs, and Watford needs, therefore, the facilities and amenities and infrastructure that actually makes living in a densely populated area enjoyable, and also compensates for some of its occasional discomforts. And it's important that, therefore, that we don't just have a sense of sending Watford councillors to another area, to a larger authority, but that Watford retains something of its own identity. How that is achieved is not really for me to say, but I would press upon the executive and those engaged in this to make sure that happens. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mayor, for his report as well. And I'd just like to say we note and welcome the contents of the Chief Executive's report, and also the hard work the Chief Executive has clearly put into this, and other officers from other districts as well, and obviously the county, and working to produce different options on the table. And we mentioned the two unitary. It's not wrong to say, I think the leader of the county council said to me prefer the two, but you perfectly summed up about the three there, and that probably been closer to us and some better fit for Watford. And we welcome the government's English devolution white paper to devolve greater power and funding to local areas, and the fact that devolution and local government reorganisation are two separate but clearly linked work streams, and that's a key point in what it says in the paper. And we welcome the determination of the government to set up strategic authorities with more powers locally in key areas such as transport and infrastructure. Much talked about at County Council today, about obviously bus franchising and in the news, and housing and strategic planning, economic development and regeneration. And the key thing about that is, as Councillor Sharp said there, that we must be able to still make sure that the Watford area can still have economic development, have a proper say on that, and also on things like the parks. Yes, we must take the best bits of Watford and make sure that they are at the forefront, whatever the form of governance we have. So it shouldn't be a question of Watford joining with 2 or 3 others or 4 others, and therefore Watford getting subsumed. They need to get the best bits that work in Watford, and I hope that we can push that. The government states the unity councils originally said must be the right size to achieve efficiencies, improve capacity, and withstand financial shocks. And while they, as the Mayor says, the population should be around about 500,000. That was originally mentioned. But I think the key point is the government recognises there may be exceptions to be considered, and now we're looking at that on a case-by-case basis. I put down, thank goodness, here in Hearts then, because that's clearly what's going to happen. We certainly I don't expect it to be 500,000, 600,000. I mean, all right, if it's 2, I suppose it will be, but I would hope it would be more likely to be 3, but there's nothing decided yet. I think the key for us locally is a wide range of local government structures, the importance of neighbourhood governance, bringing it back more to the people in Watford, community empowerment, as mentioned, changes to local authority governance, all right, the introduction, the mechanisms to amplify local voices it mentions in decision makers, and what that can mean for us locally here and about new powers. But I think the key thing is, as the Mayor said, there's been a very good close working across all the districts, no matter what political parties we are, even Tory, Broxbourne. And that's been very important. And I mean, simplifying access. And I think the key thing to me for residents and hearing what people have said at the consultant meetings is simplifying access, reducing duplication. That's important. And there, the fact that the, as I said, the closer to residents and a better fit possibly is the 3 model. And as I think Councillor Khan said and others have said, you think of Watford, Bushy, Croxley, and a lot of those people do feel that identify with Watford. So I can understand that. Now, whether Watford goes into a 3 or 4 unitary, as well as maybe 2, we recognise there need to be changes to the existing boundary and district boundaries. And that's fine, we'd obviously accept that. And I know the Chief Executive has said, as has the Chief Executive of the county, that we will still, get briefed in the next 3 or 4 weeks when we get those up-to-date data and on financial data. So obviously we await to see that. And the main thing is we look to try and get the best deal for Watford residents. More accountability, or as much as we can get. Value for money in any future LGR arrangements. And I think that's the key thing. Getting the best that we do as Watford from this council and has done over the years, and accountability and value for money. And we wait to see in the next few weeks, unless we're very busy, what the actual model is going to be. And obviously then when the decision's made by the executive, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Watkin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And before I start, can I just sort of put on record the thanks we should be giving to our officer team, because Watford has been the team that have been actually looking at the 3 unitary options. The county council looked at 2, and Watford, one of the smaller authorities, took on the load to do that review. So congratulations, Donna, and for all, and thanks to you for what you've done to make. And last 2 weeks ago, we were doing development management. We finished at 9 o'clock, and there was one of the officers, senior officers, sitting there. And I said, "What are you doing here?" She said, "I'm working on the local government reorganisation." So goodness knows how you've managed to do business as usual. With my county hat on, bigger is better. Because I'm looking at special educational needs, and you think you need to be able to have a wide provision of services available to the community with which you serve. So I started off thinking, well, if you've got to change, maybe 2 is the better option. And I drew breath, and I thought, no, I'm proud of Watford. I'm proud of our being bold. I'm proud of our being dynamic. I'm proud of us having an identity that we have to protect. And the bigger the authority that we're in, the harder it will be to try and retain that drive that separates us out, frankly, from our neighbours. And this is the worrying thing. Even on the 3 model, which I'm now coming to favour, I still worry that that energy, that individuality of Watford is going to be subsumed into something else. What will we be? Will we be a town council? I'm not sure. But, what power will we still have to be able to drive ourselves forward? On a positive note, we won't build many more towers, because they can put the towers into proper development out in greenfield sites, but certainly in more arranged sites, rather than being forced to do things that really have no wish to do, but the government has required us to do. So my vote is for 3, but I worry deeply about how the identity of this borough will be kept. We will lose our mayor, who and his predecessor have been absolutely at the heart of creating the town that we now live in and enjoy. And there will be no substitute of similar power in the new organisation. So with regret, I will go for 3, but I hope that somehow Watford's identity can be retained in what's in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Watkin. Councillor Safford.
Thanks, Chair. I will repeat some of what people have said, but I make no apology because I feel very strongly about this, and I just can't let the debate pass without speaking from the heart on it. Local government often is quite dry and technical and boring, and I understand that. The mayor looks upset by that, but local identity is not just about where you are; it's about who you are, and it matters. And I remain a sceptic of this process. This is something that has been done to us, and as Councillor Sharp has covered, we probably wouldn't have chosen it. But like I say, local identity really matters. And whether you choose to live here or you're born here, it's a unifying identity, Watford, and it's a great place. I love it. You know, and I'm frightened by the reorganisation, but you know, that's why people love their football club. It's why people love their crest, their flag, because it's who they are, not just where they are. And it really, so I fear that if that identity is lost as part of this process and we're subsumed into some sort of technocratic entity, that would be unforgivable. So it's the right thing to do for us to be responsible here and to pick the best option. And I think the best option is the 3. It does centre on a kind of a greater Watford. I refrain from using the phrase "make Watford great again" because Watford's already great, but it does give us some level of that. But I remain a sceptic of it. But I couldn't let the debate pass really without saying that. Because I think local identity matters so much. And I say, whether you choose to live here or you're born here, or whatever it is, people are very proud of Watford. This council has been extremely successful. I've grown up, you know, the change I've seen in my lifetime growing up here has been enormous. And I'm really, really proud of Watford Borough Council. And I think whatever comes in its place needs to be centred on Watford and the needs of Watford's residents into the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to sum up?
I just second, is that right?
Sorry.
I won't duplicate, but there's a few small additions. Much. I do just want to add one thing with regards to the amount of effort. It really can't be understated just how much work's gone into this by officers. It's been mentioned how late officers have been staying, but you know, day in, day out, there are constant discussions, really live discussions between our council and other councils. And we really can't understate that. Also, I do want to put on record, politician thanks politician, but Peter's done a whole lot of work on this. So, thank you, Mayor, for that. Cheap applause, that one. It's really a contentious thing to reorganise government. And I do want to just really reiterate, this wasn't really in the public discussion in the general election last year. It hasn't really been well flagshipped, in my view, by government going forward. Despite all of the hard work that this council and the councils around Hertfordshire have done, if you asked Joe Bloggs on street, you would be fairly long odds for them to be really well informed on the process of local government reform. So that's something that really, really worries me, that people, just like Councillor Savary just said, the town council that they relate to, that they know, frankly, a recently award-winning council is at risk, will be reorganised out of their lives. And at the moment, they're not really well briefed. So it's something that we all need to take away and really drive forward. This is happening. People need to be well informed, well ahead of time. And I do personally believe that government needs to step up on that front. I really don't want Watford to lose its culture, but there is an opportunity for us to take our culture of stakeholder engagement to our neighbours and really show that Watford's spirit of really driving forward economic growth can be brought out and around the town. I'm so proud of what we do here in Watford. So there's an opportunity to deliver at scale as well. I'm skipping through my speech that was almost word for word what the Mayor said. So let me make sure I don't repeat. And lastly, just so residents are aware, they will remember that there was discussions of a single unitary authority, and that was something that was raised by some parties at the beginning of this process. Just to reiterate, that's not on the table here. It's something that keeps getting raised with me by residents periodically. This largest council in Europe, whole of Hertfordshire unitary authority, that is not on the cards. It will be 2, 3 or 4 as residents will hear from the discussion today. There's a strong support for 3 in this room, and we've got our deliberations to make. But there is still such ongoing detailed work here that, I personally do not think that the timeline has been sufficient for a really, really protracted discussion with residents on this. But we are doing everything in your interest to try and make sure that the new authority that represents you is one that you can recognise, as has been said by many councillors in the room. So I really support this piece of work. Again, records on thanks to everyone involved. It's been a huge amount of work. And just to finally say, it's quite an acrimonious process in some parts of the country. Some parts of the country, borough councils are not speaking to each other, county councils are not speaking to borough councils. Hertfordshire can hold itself up with pride right across the political line, political boundaries. we are still having really good discussions and working together. So it's something for the whole of Hertfordshire to be proud of. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a few things. Firstly, I agree, thank you for all the contributions. I agree with pretty much every word that everybody said. I think a few things just to highlight. I think the first thing is just to remember that this is going to be historic, but it's going to be for decades and decades. Most of us will never see another local government reorganisation in our lifetime. So it is really important that we get it right. The point was made a couple of times about town councils, and I think that's really important. That will ultimately be a decision for the new unitary authorities, but I think whatever arrangement we have, we will need to look at, well, is it town councils? Is it local area forums that bring together the key partners in an area, including the local councils, to deliver for that area, such as Watford? Is it a combination of both? So I think that will be a critical decision for the new council and something that they must get right. Because we're kind of optimists generally and sort of see things as positive, I think we should recognise that, yeah, we didn't want this to happen, but there will be some benefits. One of them will be, I'll just take a poll. Who here has ever been contacted by a resident who was talking about potholes? Pretty much all of us. And then we say, oh, report it to the county council. There will be that simplification that in the future, there will be probably, for each county division, 3 councillors working very hard for that area, but who will be responsible for everything? And there'll be that single point of contact. Councillor Sharp talked about mega mayors. It's about time we had a mega mayor. All I'd say about the combined authority, that we should remember that actually some of us might have problems with it, but what we need to make sure is that the new arrangements deliver for our residents. And if it's done well, that new combined authority should be able to deliver better bus services because it's got the power and the funding to do it. It should be able to bring into use the Croxley line. It should be able to deliver more social and affordable housing. We've got to kind of accept to some degree what we're given and make the best of it for our residents, and never forget that actually, we're spending ages talking about process at the moment, but really what we're all here for is to deliver for our residents. And so I think whatever we end up with, that must be our focus.
Yeah. Well done. Thank you. Good. Does the council agree to note the 3 recommendations as printed in the agenda pack on page 88? All those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? Thank you. Any abstentions? Thank you. The recommendations are carried. Good. Thank you for cooperating with me. I will give you 2 minutes comfort break and we'll come back for the motions. Thank you. Please, can we come back? Can we come back? Please, could you help me call the other people down there to come back? Yeah. Okay. Ready to start again. Please, could we be seated, please? We're ready to start, please, guys.
This is really
I don't know what to do. I don't know what else to do. I can't. Please, can we come together? We're ready to start. Thank you. So, thank you so much. 3 motions have been received under Procedure Rule 13.0. We'll go through them in order of receipt by Democratic Services Lead. I would like to remind all councillors that the mover of the motion has up to 7 minutes with a right of reply up to 3 minutes. Everyone else has up to 5 minutes and may only speak once. And please, like what I said in the previous local government reorganization, if someone has made the point you wanted to make, please could you consider not to repeat them. The first motion is urgent action on mold and damp in housing association properties in Watford, which has been proposed by Councillor Alan Williamson and seconded by Councillor Safri. Details are contained in the agenda. I will now invite Councillor Alan Williamson to move the motion. You have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Council note. Council note, the death of 2-year-old child in December 2020 caused by prolonged exposure to mold in a housing association property has highlighted the severe health risks posed by damp and mold in association house. The significant number of homes are managed by housing association, including Watford Community Housing Trust and others. Councillors have received ongoing report from residents living in housing association properties suffering from resistant issue with mold and damp, which has been left unsolved for unacceptable long periods. Council believe everyone have the right to live in a safe, healthy, and well-maintained home. Mold and damp in housing are not maintained issues. There are serious public health concerns, particularly for children and elderly and people with pre-existing health conditions. All housing providers must be transparent, accountable, and proactive in addressing these issues. Council resolve to write to all major housing associations operating in Watford, including Watford Community Housing Trust, Thrives Home, and others requested. A full report on the number of properties currently affected by mold and damp, data on how many homes are awaiting repairs, including average response and resolution times. A copy of their action plan to address these issues and prevent future cases. Request that the Mayor of Watford and Watford Borough Council actively engage with these housing providers to ensure effective resolution of outstanding issues. Use all available enforcement and environmental health power where necessary to protect residents living in unsafe conditions. Support residents in affected property with advice and signposts. Thank you.
Thank you. And I invite Councillor Safri to second.
Thanks, Chair. I'm very proud to second the motion. I'll reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to this motion? Okay. Does anyone wish to speak on this motion? So I've got Councillor Patterson, Councillor Pache, and Councillor Khan. Oh, Councillor Khan. Oh, Khan, then, and who again?
And Lisa.
And Melissa.
And the Chair, Councillor Martins.
I think Rabi, Councillor Rabi. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Chair, colleagues. Thank you, Councillor, for bringing this motion. I'm speaking today in my role as housing portfolio holder and someone who's passionate about having safe, affordable housing in our town to support the health and well-being of all. This motion is of critical importance and addresses the unacceptable risks posed by damp and mould in domestic properties and particularly in social housing. The issue was tragically brought to the national attention by the death of two-year-old Awa Bishkak in December 2020, a loss that underscores the severe health dangers associated with poor housing conditions. Good quality housing is key to good health. It helps prevent a range of health conditions, for example, respiratory infections, allergies, asthma, and increased risks to children under 14, older adults, and those who have associated health conditions. I'm sure we will all agree that everyone has the right to live in a safe, healthy and well-maintained home, but we also must recognise that damp and associated mould growth in domestic properties is quite a complex matter, with different causations and solutions for each property and family, and sometimes there's not always a simple way to remedy issues. In 2023, the Hearts Safeguarding Children's Partnership raised concerns about the risks of poor quality housing to children and young people. And in response to this, a comprehensive review was undertaken, leading to the establishment of a Hertfordshire Healthy Homes work programme, with Watford Borough Council playing a key role within this committee. The council itself has already taken important actions to address. Firstly, by raising awareness and providing practical guidance through information flyers, a risk scale and a comprehensive booklet for professionals, establishing a streamlined referral pathway for damp and mould cases focused on households with children and vulnerable adults, delivering healthier homes for healthier lives, training sessions for professionals across both social and private housing sectors, and maintaining close working relationships with all registered providers who are responsible for social housing in Watford, including regular liaison meetings and open lines of communication for escalating urgent cases. A recent external audit of Watford Council also confirmed that the council were dealing with cases of damp and mould in a timely and effective manner. It was also noted that officers are proactive in dealing with these issues and found that residents were well signposted to guidance and support. But there is obviously more action needed. We need the motion before us rightly calls for full transparency from all major housing associations, including data on affected properties, repair times and action plans, active engagement where necessary and enforcement by the council to protect residents, and ongoing support and signposting for those affected. But we must also remember that social housing providers should be preparing for the long-awaited AWAB's law. This comes into effect for the social rented sector on Monday next week. This legislation imposes strict timeframes for dealing with hazards, including investigation and communication with the tenant when dealing with various hazards, including damp and mould in social housing. I can confirm that the council will be doing all within its powers to ensure that registered providers comply with this critical piece of legislation, and will use its enforcement powers to take action where there are identified breaches to ensure the safe housing of all in our town. In conclusion, colleagues, I urge you to support this motion so together we can ensure that every resident in Watford has a safe and healthy home. Thank you.
So, what's my list? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just thank you for this motion. It's very similar, actually, to what we did in scrutiny in February 2024, where we had a report which looked into these very matters, actually. It was about complaints, it was about mould, and some of the people here were part of that. It was a very effective report. But I say this, that it's one of the, but it is one of the most complaints I get from casework, I'm sure many of you do, with social housing, about the lack of fixing of damp and mould and so on. It's really important about conditions that are being offered for social rent, whether it's by housing associations or even sometimes temporary accommodation. We've got to improve that, whether that's educating residents, whether it's providing support, but it's intolerable in this day and age that people are still living in damp to such an extent that it affects their day-to-day lives. Yeah, I'm shouting about it because residents, I'm their voice, and many of you are their voice. It's actually an issue about residents. And sometimes, until we intervene with casework, then things get moved along. That shouldn't be the case. It should be, if someone reports something, a resident, then the housing association, whether it's Watford Community or Thrive or Sanctuary, whatever it is, they need to make sure that they act because it's the residents and they are the social landlord, it's their responsibility. And I hope AWAB's law does bring that forward. But thank you for bringing that motion. I will support it. And it's something which is all of us as councillors need to play that role on behalf of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Annalisa.
Yes, Chair. What I want to say is also take into consideration not just the physical issue the people can live with, but also the mental issue they can take together. Because we have to think that when you live in a unhealthy place and you see your children not feeling well, it is a concern for us. And I think that everyone deserves to have a well-maintained house. And this moment in time, some of the houses are not. And we don't just talk about mold or damp, but there are other issues that we are facing in our casework. And I think that they should be tackled in a proper way together with damp and mold. Thank you.
Councillor Sohail.
Well, I mean, I've heard representations and contributions from colleagues, and I'm not going to reiterate and repeat everything because I'm conscious of the time and we've got two other motions as well. The only thing I was going to say is that one fundamental part within this motion which is not contained is about effectively the same, what we're asking for social landlord should also be something that should be considered for private landlords, because many of our residents are also in unhealthy and unsafe homes where we have private landlords. And I think that's something that we should be addressing in addition to all the very good things that we requested in this motion. So I won't speak at length because colleagues have already made the contributions.
Thank you for being so considerate. Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yeah, it's very important. And obviously, AHAB's law, I think that affected that case, people across the country. And I know the Housing Trust and other housing associations have been preparing for this and for next week. So yeah, this, as Councillor Khan said, there was a very good scrutiny. I know he led it and others since, and Councillor Grimston questioned regularly, well, a year or two ago, and then you regularly get the Watford Council Community Housing Trust to come in, and that's important. And it's also important that we hold, obviously, Hightown, Praetorian, Peabody, Origin, and the other smaller housing associations that are based in Watford to account as well. That's a very good point that Councillor Bashir made about private landlords as well, and I think we should note that as well. And I know a lot of the casework that we get, that we go to housing officers and environmental control, is actually about private landlords and whether they're registered and who they are and where they are. And I think we know a lot of the ones that need to be looked into. But yes, I agree with this. And in fact, Councillor Patterson, I think, mentioned the Heart Safeguarding Children's Partnership. And in fact, that was actually in the Health and Wellbeing report today. That's chaired at the moment by Councillor Symington. And in fact, it does mention there about when it was set up and over the last year, looking at housing, and it mentions damp in there. And that's important. So we'll actually hold her to account. I'm sure she'll be very good at highlighting that. So yes, overall, I support this. A good motion, and it's timely that we actually keep a watch and an eye on all our housing associations, especially obviously Watford Community Housing Trust. We know that they are looking to combine with Thrive. Now, they say that they're doing that because they can have more power and be able to do more things. We've got to make sure that doesn't mean that means them that if you like, having less scrutiny, we must make sure that if they do combine, that doesn't mean that things like this get left. We still got to hold them to account, even if they get larger. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bell. Councillor Rabi.
Thank you, Chair. Most of what I was going to say, again, not surprisingly, has been said. But there's just 3 points I wanted to raise. The first one is the moral and the legal obligation we, Watford Council, have in terms of social providers. After all, we have the nomination rights. What that means to me is what we're effectively doing is placing our residents in the custody of those houses. Once we've done that, I think we can't just walk away. It's absolutely right what we've done. We need to ensure that the accommodation that they live in continues to be fit for purpose. And certainly nationally and now locally, properties that mold are not fit for purpose. The mayor is going to write to the housing association, but I also do think we have an opportunity to get our environmental health departments to start taking a more hard line in terms of the quality of these properties. We should be inspecting them locally. Although it's not in the motion, what I hope will happen when we get the report in 6 months from the Housing Association, we also have a report from the environmental health in terms of the reports they've had of damp, etc., what we've done. Let's do this in a holistic fashion. The motion is absolutely necessary. So I'll just repeat what I said. Let's not forget our moral obligation to ensure that the people we place, and I stress place, through our nomination rights in these properties are well looked after. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Safri.
Thanks, Chair. That won't take too long because I'm conscious of time. Just to say, I'm very pleased to second this motion. It is an excellent motion to pay tribute to my colleague for putting it forward. As Councillor Khan has mentioned, sometimes as councillors, you come across cases with residents in housing associations. It's actually quite alarming how difficult it is to get action to be taken, and I think this is a real step towards, using what power we have over social housing associations to hold their feet to the fire a bit. I think we can see it as well with the introduction of the WAB's law in a week or a few days. This is a good way of ensuring that housing associations in the borough are ready to take those duties on board, and this will be a good sort of way of them getting the sort of information they need. And I think it's an excellent motion because it puts forward some real clear steps, some real clear asks, and enables us to do our scrutiny work as a council really well. So I commend it to you all, and I thank Dawn for bringing it forward.
Could I call on Councillor Williamson to sum up?
Thank you, Chairman. First, I must say, yes, Sahel, for private landlord, good point from Councillor Sahel. Last week, 100 private landlords were in this room. We are working closely with them. And another thing mentioned from Councillor Rabi about the environmental health, I can stand here today and said Watford Borough Council environmental do take responsibility. However, Watford Housing Trust is a law unto themselves, so they find it very difficult. Early this year, a heavy pregnant mother contacted me in distress. She was struggling to cope with severe mold and damp in her Watford Community Housing Trust property. Condition was already endured with her young son. As the pregnant progressed, she did a serious situation. She reached out weeks before giving birth, desperately for help, fearful for her health of her children. Her baby was born on the 1st of February, and now, more than 8 months later, this mother, her newborn baby, and all children in the safe, unsafe, healthy environment A mole and Welsh was carried out, but no long-term solution has been provided. The underlay cause of dump remain unsolved. This is not isolation case. Our tenants, our resident is our interest. We are the voice of our resident. I want to send a clear message to Watford County Housing Trust. We, the elected representative, are the voice of the people, especially when their voice are not being heard. We will continue to speak up until action has been taken. When councillors challenge Watford Community Housing Trust, they should not be offensive and ready to put in complaint. It's not acceptable. This behavior is hostile, and we are here to represent our residents. They voted for us to represent them, and that's what I stand for.
Thank you. Could I invite members to vote on the motion then? All those in favor, please. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion is carried. I've just looked at the time. I think we're doing well, but hopefully we get there by 10. The second motion is has been proposed by Councillor Khan and seconded by Councillor Bell. I will now invite.
Sorry, just point of confirmation, actually, it should have been Councillor Shah is actually seconded it. Sorry, it should have been in the papers.
Oh.
Just for the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you're still moving it, Councillor Khan? Yeah. Okay. So I will now invite Councillor Khan to move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise this evening late on the 21st of October 2025 to move this motion, not just as a councillor, but as someone who has lived and walked the streets of Watford all my life. When I walk through Casbury Park or down St Albans Road or past neighbours on the school run, I see what makes Watford special. People from every faith, every background, every part of the world, sharing the same parks, the same shops, the same conversations about weather or the football. We are at heart a town that gets along. Ordinary people doing ordinary things, quite proving every day that we're in an extraordinary town and diversity works. That is why the recent graffiti attacks on our mosques hit so hard. 2 places of worship and a potential new mosque our places of peace and prayer were graffitied. It was shocking and deeply hurtful. But what happened next showed the real Watford. The week after, virtually no publicity, the North Watford Mosque was filled with love and solidarity. Many of you came to that place. People from all walks of life, residents, police, there was a judge there, officers, councillors, church leaders, members of the synagogue, turned up to show their support. Many had never been inside a mosque before. They came simply to say, this is not who we are. That moment of unity reminded me why I'm proud to call this town home. But we can't ignore what's happening beyond Watford. Across the country, far-right activity is on the rise again, both on our streets and online. Extremists are feeding off people's frustrations and fears about the economy, about immigration, about whether things are working as they should. These are real anxieties held by people, and we must never dismiss them. People are struggling. Wages haven't kept up with costs. Public services are under pressure. Life feels uncertain. But, Madam Chair, what the far right offers is not a solution, it's a scapegoat. They tell people it's the immigrants, it's the Muslims, it's the Jews, it's the refugees. They try to turn neighbour against neighbour, to make us forget our shared humanity, It is a lie and a dangerous one. Let's be clear. Hate doesn't build homes. Hate doesn't shorten NHS waiting lists. Hate doesn't make schools. Hate only destroys communities, friendships, families, and lives. And it's not just one community being targeted. Alongside the rise in massive increase in Muslim hatred or Islamophobia, we've seen a sharp rise and distressing increase in anti-Semitism. So this is utterly unacceptable, whether hate is directed at a synagogue or a mosque or a temple or a church or a gurdwara. It is an attack on all of us. So the vast majority of people in Watford are law-abiding, they're decent citizens, they don't care what religion their neighbour is, they work hard, they pay their bills, they help their families, and just want to live in peace. I see it every day, in the park, at the shops, in our schools, people getting on perfectly well. And that's, well, the story of Watford. And that's what this motion seeks to protect. Through this motion, we clearly see we affirm our commitment as a council to stand firmly against all forms of hate and extremism. We work closely with Hertfordshire Police, faith leaders, schools, and community organisations to strengthen reassurance and solidarity across Watford. We will promote grassroots activities that counter hate with hope. And that's why I don't agree with us crossing out of the amendment where we do need educational workshops to promote these educational workshops in schools, youth projects that bring people together, interfaith cultural events that celebrate our diversity, and positive online campaigns that challenge hate and misinformation. Just imagine a Jew and a Muslim together, going into school together, talking about harmony, talking about promotion of faith, and so on. That is, we call upon the government to provide resources, local authorities and police to tackle the rise in religious hate and far-right extremism. Madam Chair, I know that people are anxious. They see the cost of living going up, public services struggling, and they worry about the future. These are real issues, but division will never fix them. The far-right offers anger, not answers. What we need is hope, fairness, and opportunity. Watford has shown time and time again that when we face challenges, we come together, not apart. We saw it during the pandemic when neighbours looked after one another. We didn't see people's colours, we just worked. And, after local disturbances, communities came together. That's why through this motion, we send a message loud and clear that in Watford we will not be divided. That anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, and all forms of hate have no place. And in Black History Month, Madam Chair, I'm going to quote Nelson Mandela. It says, "No one is born hating one another because of the colour of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love." Madam Chair, I commend this motion to the Council and to the people of Watford. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, just a quick point of information. It's just about the amendment. I think an earlier draft has been submitted. What we were saying was, rather than with that sentence about educational workshops should remain in there, we just add the word encourage educational workshops because it's not under our remit. So, that's, if they were happy with that, the proposal
I would accept all of it, apart from that line, which I
keep that sentence in, but just change it to say encourage.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
So is there any amendment in?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm willing to accept all of that. Just that line needs to be in about encouraging education workshops.
That's great.
Okay. Is that agreed then? Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, then we
as
move
long as the
on.
minutes are clear. And
Thank you. So is Councillor Shah seconding that?
Watford has always been a proud, diverse and welcoming town, a place where people from many backgrounds, faiths and cultures live side by side. Recent incidents of race and hate crime have shaken our community and we stand united in condemning them. Hate has no home here, especially in Watford. As a council, we have a duty to ensure that every resident feels safe, respected and valued. By working together with our community partners, schools, faith groups and residents, we can continue to build understanding, celebrate our diversity and show that unity and kindness are stronger than division or fear. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Asif Khan for arranging the lovely afternoon coffee and lunch at the local mosque. It was such a great way to bring people together from all backgrounds and show that here in Watford, we are one community. It's moments like these that remind us how much stronger we are when we stand together. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and debate the new motion then, the one you accepted, Councillor Khan. Correct. So does anyone wish to speak on this new motion? Okay, sorry, let me write it down. Okay, Councillor Bashir, Councillor Aga, who again? Sorry?
Councillor Watkin.
Watkin.
And the mayor.
And the mayor. Okay.
Maybe start with that.
Yes. Councillor Bashir.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. And can I firstly start by commending the powerful and moving contribution by Councillor Khan on this motion. I know this is a motion that's very close to his heart and some of the work that he's done, I'll be commenting on that in a moment. I fully support this amended motion and want to take this opportunity to commend the fantastic work already being done here in Watford to keep our communities united and safe. We have a very strong record of interfaith community cohesion, something that we should all be proud of. Our local councillors across all parties and our mayor have worked tirelessly alongside faith leaders, community organisations and the voluntary sector to promote understanding, respect and partnership. That work has made a real difference on the ground, building trust and ensuring that our diverse communities feel valued and protected. A perfect example of that partnership was the recent community engagement event at North Watford Mosque, organised by Councillor Asif Khan, where representatives from all communities came together alongside the mayor, the chief superintendent of the police, the fire and rescue service, local faith leaders of all faiths. It was a powerful show of unity and reassurance, a reminder that Watford stands together against hate and extremism, and that we respond to challenges not with division, but with dialogue and solidarity. I also want to acknowledge the excellent cooperation we've had from Hertfordshire Police in responding swiftly and decisively to hate crimes, but particularly following recent events. Their proactive stance sends a clear message that hate and extremism will not be tolerated in our town. Watford continues to lead by example, showing that when we work together, respect each other and stand united, we can overcome hate with hope and division and with unity. And one example of that is the Mayor's Faith Forum initiative, which is a building community cohesion and bringing people together. So I would like to thank the Mayor for this fantastic initiative that you've done as part and parcel of the community cohesion in our town. So very finally, those are my comments. Thank you very much, Councillor Khan, for bringing it, and happy to support the motion.
Thank you. Members, I'm conscious that it's 10 p.m. now, and we will require to conclude these motions and meeting by 10:30, except we want to make an extension. We're still on the second one.
15 minutes.
The members are saying they're going to keep.
I think we can. Yeah. We can. Yeah. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. Councillor Aga.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you very much to my colleague across the chamber for accepting our amendments. And I believe so now we have the right one. I need to say, because I feel very strongly about it as a portfolio for community safety and cohesion, to highlight the work, what has been done across the town, not only in recent incidents, which was shocking to myself also and the whole community, but also what are we doing to making sure and reassure our residents and the visitors that Watford is the town of everyone is welcomed. Just from the hate crime point of view, we have as a Watford Borough Council, we operate as a third-party hate crime reporting centre at the Town Hall, which provides residents with the safe and confident space to report hate crimes. The Council itself hosts a dedicated hate crime information hub, where outlining how residents can report hate incidents to the police or local support services, and the whole of information where to seeking the support from the third parties. We work with partners to ensure that the victims who sadly been affected by the hate crime are fully advised, protected, and onwards referred to support network. We lead the Safe Community Partnership, which brings together the police, fire and the rescue, housing association, health and voluntary sector organisation, and through the delivery of the plan, the community well-being, which including hate crime, extremism and serious violence, like also reassurance and communication, which is aiming to improve public confidence and awareness, is happening already. We are reviewing on a weekly basis the cases where we're sharing the information with the agency, and it's allowing us to have an early intervention for victims and making sure that we can support them. Through that partnership, we're also monitoring any hotspots, and we are making sure that the operation is in plan, and we're working continuously with the Hertfordshire Constabulary and the Watford Police, of course. Public campaign which promoting inclusivity is really important to us, and I think that we all know about our own electric umbrella and the recent single which saying it's not a crime to be different. It's also part of the national awareness of the hate crime which is happening currently, and we are part of it. The Council celebrates the Watford diversity through the different initiatives and ongoing events happening across the town by the events organised other members and the councillors, and also mentioned earlier, Mayor's Forum. We are engaging and educating through community protection outreach, officers visiting schools, youth clubs and community centres to discuss respect, tolerance and online safety. We support interfaith and cultural events, which I mentioned, and also we promote local community projects when it's possible. We are working with the Hertfordshire Police and maintaining neighbourhood policing and community safety tasking group, which addressing the hate-related incidents promptly, and regularly meeting with the faith leaders with the support of the colleagues across the chamber. I hope that you will join me to clap officers of community safety team for their recognition and ongoing commitment to the work, what they making sure that the effort to tackle hate crime, promote inclusion and build resilience community is ongoing. From the nationally recognized "It's Not a Crime to Be Different" from our own electric umbrella campaign to interfaith outreach and education in schools, Watford stands as a positive example of how local leadership, partnership, cohesion and community spirits can counter division and hate. This is Watford. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watkin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Just a few things. I was worried when I saw the line going through about working in schools, because absolutely we do need to encourage our children to understand and recognise and honour the other children in their school about their backgrounds and their faith. I chair the county committee called the Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education, which sounds a very dry sort of group. And Councillor Khan, we used to be on it before he stepped down, I'll put it nicely, from the county council. And its role is to basically put a syllabus together which is taught in Hertfordshire schools to understand the faith of their neighbouring children, to understand and recognise and to celebrate the differences that actually make us come together. That sounds like a dichotomy, but it works. So I will just say, The schools are the hope for the future. So I'm delighted that we didn't take that line out. It wasn't a mistake. And I encourage you, one other point I just want to say, we haven't mentioned the Watford Interfaith Association, and they're a wonderful group. And if you, I forget what it is now, but every year they do an interfaith pilgrimage where you visit, well, one visits, and I've done it many times, the various centres of faith in Watford. And if you are around when it's on, please join it. It's a wonderful example to our colleagues and to our residents of the sheer affection that goes on between the various communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Peter Teller.
I will be really brief because I'm conscious of time. I'm grateful to Councillor Khan for this motion. Hopefully you've seen the correct amendment. I'm really grateful for all the work that people do to bring our town together. There are lots of factors that are pushing us apart, and I agree with Councillor Watkin about the work of the Watford Interfaith Association. The pilgrimage is on the 16th of November, so if you've not got that date in your diary, there'll be details shared, but please do attend that. I know it's always a really well attended and a very good event. The one thing I'd like to say is that there is lots of good work happening, but I don't think we should underestimate the sense of fear that actually a number of faith groups have at the moment. I've been at several meetings, and as I know a number of you have, with representatives from a range of religions. And actually, there is real anxiety. Again, like a number of you, I attended the synagogue for Watford and District Synagogue a few days after the atrocious incidents in Manchester. And what struck me was the warmth of the welcome. They were, really pleased to see us there. But actually, they had 2 police officers outside. They had 2 of their own security. They had CCTV, bulletproof doors, and all the rest of it. And you think, actually, we should be really concerned that in our society, places of worship are having to go to those lengths because they fear that they can't worship freely. And so I commend the motion. I commend the work that we're doing. But there's a lot to do to create the kind of society we all want, where people are free to worship who they want and how they want, without fearing discrimination or attacks.
Thank you. Councillor Dizak, you use 1 minute.
Actually, I'm going to take note
Thank
of
you.
your request. I'm going to waive my time. Everything has been said.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Could I ask Councillor Khan to round up, please?
Thank you, and thank you for all the councillors that have spoken. So Sahel, Nazreen, Peter, Aga, Mark, and Jaktar, as well. I've said Mark. So everybody, thank you. Do you know Watford is? Do you know we know each other in Watford? Yeah, well, we know the faith groups, we know the community groups. Yeah, we know from North. And that's what makes us special. So when something hits one of us, we all come together. And that's a great thing. And when something outside comes in, they realise that we might be politically different, but we all know each other, we chat, and there's a different relationship that exists, and that's great. And it is the Watford Interfaith I work with. One Vision plays a really important role as well, bringing communities together. And I think this is my ethos behind this motion. It's just, we've got to make sure we're cognizant. There is a challenge that's happening, and we've got to deal with it. And hope that we'll solve the problem. It's not hate. When people are preaching hate, we've got to combat it, and people come together and combat that. And that's all I want to do. And thank you for your support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Should we vote on the motion then? All those in favour, please. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion is carried. Then we move to the last motion. And please could I ask members to please be mindful of the time? The third motion has been proposed by Councillor Bell and seconded by Councillor Suleiman. I now invite Councillor Bell to move the motion.
Thank you, Chair. And may I say I accept the Lib Dem amendment. I know it mentions Lib Dem, but anyway, to get it through, and it's important symbolically we get this through. So, yeah. Now, I'll just read what I was going to say anyway, but I do accept that. And I know it was getting late. I propose this motion, and I know it was a model Labour motion, but I think in this case it was worth bringing it forward because I think it's above party politics. We can all agree but the psychological effect of the Hillsborough disaster and the lessons from it are worth highlighting across the country and in small district council like Watford at the moment, as well as larger institutions like the NHS, the police, the armed forces, and as I've mentioned in the motion, Grenfell and Windrush. When we think of Hillsborough, we think of years of campaigning by the families affected and their determination to not be kept down by the establishment always seem to put up more barriers. Again, similarly, when we think of Grenfell and Windrush and the symbolism associated now sadly with those words as families fought over the years for their rights. So we pay tribute to those who fought for justice against the odds and recognise that all those families could have been from Watford and could have been our families. And it's good that we should associate ourselves with the new professional and legal duty of candour, meaning public officials must act with honesty and integrity at all times, with criminal sanctions for egregious breaches which would lead to meaningful cultural change, and key here, a public service that truly acts in the public interest. So as a council and as a public institution, therefore, I think it's important we associate ourselves with those words in the bill to show that we and Watford get it. As I say in the motion, it fulfils a promise made and kept by the Prime Minister and the new Labour government, I know you haven't got it there, but in which families will never again have to worry about paying for legal advice when facing the state at an inquest, and anyone who is found to have seriously misled the public or fails to cooperate with investigations into the state will face the full force of the law, and one in which public servants, council officers and others are bound by law to tell the truth. And as I state in the final paragraph, this council pledges to uphold and support the measures within the bill and recognises its ultimate meaning that public servants must always serve the public. That may be an obvious point to us as elected politicians and as we work with officers and representatives of many organisations and partners, but after the experiences of the Hillsborough families, it's always worth reminding ourselves about this. So I put forward this motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Suleiman to second the motion?
Thank you. I second this motion. The Hillsborough Bill represents an historic step towards justice and accountability for too long. Families who suffered unimaginable loss at Hillsborough and in other tragedies such as Grenfell, Post Office Horizon and Windrush were forced to fight not only for justice but for the truth itself. By introducing a statutory duty of transparency, expanding access to legal aid for bereaved families and creating penalties for those who misled the public, this legislation helps to rebuild trust between the public and the state. This motion shows that we stand alongside the families, survivors, and the campaigners who have worked tirelessly for decades. It also reaffirms our belief that public office must act fairly in the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Do anyone wish to speak on this motion? Okay. I have Councillor Salisbury and some Bashir. No. Okay. And Mayor. Okay. Councillor Salisbury.
Thanks, Chairman. Thanks for accepting the motion, the amendment rather. Just to speak on our side, the Hillsborough law is a critically important and fundamental law that's vital to a healthy democracy, and is in many ways a good example of a law that just shouldn't be needed to be introduced because the public, frankly, already expect that it's there. The public already expect that there is a duty of candour on politicians, on civil servants, on public officials, and the public already expect your ability to challenge the state shouldn't be dependent on your personal finances, your community finances. So it's absolutely right that these are brought forward. What happened at Hillsborough was an outrage, and sadly there have been other examples in the time since 1989, and they should never be repeated. The public should have confidence they can trust what politicians and civil servants say. So we're really pleased to see the bill come forward. It was slightly delayed, and there was a bit of jiggery-pokery in the Commons, but we're there now, and everyone can finally support it. So thanks for bringing the motion.
Councillor Sohail.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I strongly support the Hillsborough Bill, and I would like to pay tribute to the campaigners who fought for many, many years to bring this to fruition, eventually in Parliament. This bill is about justice, truth and accountability. Families of the 97 and those affected by Grenfell and Windrush fought for decades against institutions that failed them. This bill ensures honesty is no longer an option with the duty of candor, expanded legal aid, and criminal sanctions for those who mislead or obstruct justice. It is a landmark moment, finally giving families the support they deserve and holding public officials to the highest standards. Cover-ups and dishonesty will no longer be tolerated. This bill is a promise that the mistakes of the past will not be repeated. It sets a new standard for public service, transparency, integrity, and accountability. It is a landmark moment for justice in our country. And I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Peter Taylor.
Just very briefly, I grew up about 3 miles from Hillsborough, and so one of my earliest memories is actually seeing the Hillsborough tragedy on TV, and like anyone else who witnessed it, just being absolutely kind of unable to process what was on our screens, and it kind of stayed with, I think, a lot of people, particularly in Sheffield, who lived right by it. What an awful thing it was. And of course the tragedy was horrendous, but actually what followed was also horrendous, the cover-up and all of the stuff we won't dwell on come from the Sun and others. So I think it's really good that this law has been passed. Really pleased that we can agree the amended motion, and I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, would you like to sum up?
No, just briefly, just pleased that we've got agreement and important points, good points made by Councillor Bashir and obviously the Mayor and Councillor Stotsbury and obviously Councillor Solomon seconded. So thank you to everyone for supporting this important landmark bill. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Should we vote on the motion? All those in favour? Okay, thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion has been carried. Thank you so much. And that concludes the meeting. Well done. Oh my God, it's a nightmare.